This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Well, joining us today is Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources, following news this morning of the first gold production to commence immediately, and the company has signed a contract to begin gold mining at the Hillside project, with Kavango funding the capital and investment and receiving 100% of the revenue generated. This is quite big news, Ben, it seems. I mean, only last week we did that special feature and you talked about getting into gold production as swiftly as you could, and, you know, there was lots of opportunities, but I didn't really expect it to take just a few days later. What's this all about?
It's a milestone week for us, Mark. Following the announcement at Nara on Wednesday, where we announced our maiden resource of 6,000 ounces in the indicated category, having this sort of following hot on the heels where we're straight into revenue, it's a big step forward, and it's what I've been saying all along. The first mover advantage here in Zimbabwe is enormous, and it's hard for a lot of investors to understand just quite how big the opportunity is. What's happening in Zimbabwe and what we've seen on the ground here. We've kept sort of quite a few of our cards close to our chest because obviously we don't want to reveal all of our secrets, but we're now feeling very, very strong on the ground. We've recruited an excellent team. We've established an extensive network of contacts and built a very, very strong pipeline of opportunities. And this contract is our first move towards that, where we move immediately into revenue markets. It's a fantastic day for Kavango, and hopefully the start of much bigger and better things to come.
Indeed. Well, let's talk about how this was sort of made possible. And I sort of see a tweet you did this morning where you explained how these things can come about. But maybe do you want to articulate it here now?
Yeah. So the way that these gold claims are held, each gold claim is about 10 hectares. And what you'll see throughout Zimbabwe is where claim owners will have stitched together a group of claims to form contiguous blocks sitting on top of known ore deposits. And the idea is that over time, what they would have hoped to have done would have been able to sell these blocks of claims, these mining blocks, hopefully to larger companies to bring them into production. We've talked a lot about the bulk mining boom that happened in Australia that hasn't yet happened here in Zimbabwe. Well, these claims, in a lot of cases, they can have been owned for decades by the families or the investors that own them. Now, one of the challenges with the gold claims is the basic principle behind them is to allow small-scale mining. So to enable any Zimbabwean citizen to participate in this country's really quite phenomenal natural resource wealth that it has. So by being able to take on a 10-hectare claim, it means that pretty much anybody in this country can set out and mine. And that really has been what has supported and underpinned the economy through very difficult times. This is how it's been possible. But of course, with these claims comes cost. To keep the claims valid and up to date, you have to maintain continuous production within the claim itself, and there's obviously costs associated with that, and expertise and skills and know-how that are required, and staff, of course. But you also have to pay the fees as well. So there are permits that you need from the Environmental Management Agency. There's what amounts to the license that you need from the government and the Ministry of Mines. So there's quite a cost consideration as well. And with Zimbabwe being as capital constrained as it is, what you typically find is that a lot of claim owners will tribute out, what they call a tribute, their claims to a miner. And the deal is very, very simple. The miner is allowed to go and mine on the ground so long as the tribute lasts, and they get to keep all of the revenue, but they also have to pay all of the costs, including all of the fees. Now, the advantage then for the claim owner is that the underlying opportunity has barely been scratched at the surface. So it's no skin off the claim owner's nose if the tribute miner is mining the free gold, because this is the nearer surface stuff, not the stuff that has the sort of the bulk mineable potential. But the advantage for the claim owner is it means that their ground is then held. It means they've got presence on the ground and strength on the ground, which means that none of the sort of the illegal miners will come in, but it also protects their ground indefinitely while the claims are being mined. So it's a relationship that benefits both parties. It gives the tribute miner immediate access to revenue pretty much from day one in most of these projects. There's so much free gold in this country, and for the claim owner, they get to keep their ground. For a company like Kavango, which is as well financed as we are and as well organised as we are, we're a perfect partner for claim owners to work with. And the model that we're going to be pursuing with Kavango mining in the short term, as we build up to what we hope ultimately will be bulk mineable deposits, but in the short term, we see a significant opportunity to build up a very, very profitable business here in Zimbabwe, to the point that it could well even end up financing our PLC costs as well. So we're looking at this as an opportunity to bring the company into genuine profit as we continue with our much larger exploration plays looking for these bulk mineable deposits.
Okay, so this is the model that you want to be pursuing here. Is this model something that's quite common? Are other companies following it, or is it fairly new? If there's opportunities like this, I'm sure you're not the only one looking at it.
It's quite common in the sense that there are a lot of tribute miners here in Zimbabwe. There's a long tradition of that, but it's fairly small scale stuff that is heavily capital constrained. You do have a lot of Chinese operators in the country who are also working sort of on this basis, but there is so much opportunity in Zimbabwe that the sides are barely being touched. And for us, what it also means is it gives us the opportunity to scout projects as well. So by getting involved in the tribute mining, we're also actually conducting exploration, because we're seeing the ore that is coming out of the ground. We're seeing the rock, we're seeing the waste rock. We're seeing the structures, the geological structures that are being mined, the identification of these higher grade veins. So in terms of companies like ours, no, there's no one else really operating like this at the moment, despite there being such enormous opportunity. And in terms of the return on capital invested, I mean, the numbers here are they're eye-watering. You can invest really modest sums of money, and that money can go a very, very long way in terms of increasing production and boosting overall output. So it's a very, very exciting opportunity for us.
Indeed. Well, let's talk a little bit about that opportunity then, and what might be to come, because at the moment, from reading the RNS there, it looks like the current revenue amounts to around $30,000 a month. So, that's fairly modest, but you want to increase that. You want to double the production to 1 kilogram per month by the end of this year. Have you got any projected ideas of what revenues might be coming through this, or indeed, maybe it's too early to talk about future plans in terms of getting into that bulk mineable opportunity?
I have to be careful here, because we're obviously subject to market constraints, and I personally think that those figures that we put out today are going to prove to be very conservative, even on the Hillside project alone. With what I've seen in Zimbabwe over the last 18 months, I've spent a lot of time down here. I've got to know a lot of people and seen what is possible on the ground. I think we can do better than that at Hillside. The key thing, however, is to look at the other opportunities that we've talked about. So I've talked a lot in the past about the pipeline of projects that we've built up. Now that we've got Cav mining set up, and once we're established at Hillside, I'll be looking to add further mining contracts into this mix as a means of boosting short-term revenue. For the longer-term play on the bulk mining opportunity, it is still too early to say. We've got quite a lot that we need to do for exploration to prove up the resource. We're very encouraged by what we've seen so far, but that is realistically going to take at least 18 months to 2 years. So we're focusing very much on that, and we've got some interesting updates to put out hopefully in the very near future. But with me now living down here in Bulawayo, being on the ground, building up our commercial team, I'm going to look to generate as much revenue and profit as I can as our exploration continues.
And you're ready to go immediately, are you, Ben? You mentioned the company's got well-funded money behind it to pursue this opportunity. You're ready to go immediately and start mining and improving the revenue there?
It's done. It's already happening. So we actually already started work on this at the start of this month, in advance of actually signing the contract. So all of the processing equipment is there. The third stamp mill, we have that It's a more powerful stamp mill than the two that are there already. So that will, I think, be what takes us to doubling production in the short term. We've already started work on looking to survey the underground shafts that are there with a view to bringing the underground production on stream as well. So again, I think this is something conceptually, a lot of investors, they haven't really seen a company moving this quickly on this type of project before. So I'm really looking forward to the news flow as it starts to come out over the next few months, and we can show the market what's actually possible in this space, rather than these companies just being enormous money pits that vast sums get thrown into. Unfortunately, a lot of the time with not so much to show at the end of it. Cav is now going to be moving towards becoming a genuinely profitable business, standalone in its own right, with all of the blue sky exploration upside that we have in Zimbabwe and Botswana.
Okay, excellent. I look forward to seeing how things develop over there, Ben. But let's just quickly talk about the other bit of news that came out this week, and that is, of course, on the Nara project. That's the tailings that were there, and you've got a resource, haven't you? A resource of 293,000 tons at an average grade of 0.62, totaling just under 6,000 ounces of gold, and that's in the tailings, is it?
Correct. And it's also in the indicated category. So you have measured, indicated and inferred resources. Ours is in the indicated, which is a higher confidence level. It's not quite measured yet. We are going to look at doing some additional infill drilling to take that resource into the measured category to increase the confidence in it. But the method that we used for testing these samples is what's called a bottle roll. So that 0.62 grams, we're expecting that will be the recovery rate, or near as damn it, the recovery rate. That material has already been mined. It's sitting at surface, and it needs a plant to be designed to process the sands to extract the gold. So I'm already talking to a very well-known local metallurgist who's done a lot of this work throughout Zimbabwe. So we'll be engaging him today, as it happens, with a view to starting the plant design. So we're very excited about that, because what that dump in particular offers us is a means of paying for the Nara project. So we obviously have to exercise the option to acquire the project, and it is a very exciting project. We can't wait to start drilling there in the next few weeks. But this near-term revenue gives us the opportunity not only to pay for exercising the option, but also to fund a lot of the exploration on that project itself. So Nara, I think, is going to be a real game changer for us. We've held our peace a bit in terms of what we've put out so far. I think we've been quite conservative with our estimates. We want to see what the actual data tells us, but this first data point that we've got from the dump, it came in well above our expectations, and we're extremely happy about that. So we can't wait to start extracting gold from that once we've exercised the option.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that sounds very good. And how quickly would you like to do that, Ben?
Well, you know me, Mark. Yesterday, we've obviously got to work out a bit more on the financing, and we'd like to do some drilling at Nara as well before we take the plunge. We also want to get Cav mining up and running. But I would say we'll probably look to exercise the option in the second half this year, but by that point we'll have everything ready to go, and we might have even commissioned and had the plant built ready to go and install that straight away on exercise. So it's a much bigger plan than the current mining contract that we have. It's on a larger scale. So I also want to make sure that we as a business, that we grow in the right way, so we don't take on too much too quickly. But with the contract that we've announced today, this is moving us in that direction. And once Nara comes on stream, I mean, that could add anywhere from $3 to $4 million a year to our revenue for a 2 to 3 year period. So it's a really very exciting opportunity for the company.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources.
Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.